Welcome to MyShliach Story Hour Chassidim series. So we're currently discussing the great Chosid Reb Hillel Paritcher. Reb Hillel Halevi, he was a Chosid of the Mittler Rebbe, of the Tzemach Tzedek, a Chosid of the Alter Rebbe, although he never saw the Alter Rebbe. And we learned that Reb Hillel was a Shadar, and he had a lot of koyach to give brachis, and was extremely meticulous in Shmiras HaMitzvahs and never compromised. And we heard stories about how Reb Hillel was literally ready to be Meisa Nefesh Mamish to become a Chosid of the Alter Rebbe, to learn Chassidus Chabad, be Chosid of the Mittler Rebbe. And we also learned that Reb Hillel was no simple person. He wasn't only a great Chosid, but that Tzemach Tzedek called him a half a Chosid, because he was half Chosid and half Rebbe. And therefore, a lot of the stories that we hear about Reb Hillel are very, very interesting and not the usual stories that we hear about other Chassidim typically. One of the stories goes like this. Reb Hillel would travel from town to town, and while encouraging the Yidden to be more meticulous in Torah mitzvahs and uplifting their spirits, like we heard the Lachluchis that was given to him by the Mittler Rebbe to help encourage the Yidden in the Kherson region, in the Pale of Settlements over there. And he would go spend 4 or 5 months at a time bringing with them, collecting money for Pidyon Shvuyim and for the Kantanistim, and to make sure that they were shachtim and kosher food available for the Yidden living in those areas, and bring with them and teach them Chassidishe. Reb Hillel was a shadar to collect money, and he needed the money for these purposes. Now, as you can imagine, not every person was willing to give money, even though they respected and knew that Reb Hillel was a great tzaddik, was a great chassid, and was using the money for great things. Oftentimes it happens that the Pashat Yidden, the Aram Alayit, they're more willing and more able to give tzedakah, even though they don't have so much, because they understand that everything belongs to the Eibishter. But sometimes a lot of the Gvidim in the town think that it's Keichi Veitzim Yadi, I'm so smart, I'm so great, I know how to make big business deals, and I know how to play the market exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that's why I have Hatzlacha in my business. And they forget that the only reason why they have the money that they have is because the Eibishter is making them a MyShliach to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of tzedakah, to share with other people. There's many stories about how people, when they were not so wealthy, they gave a lot of tzedakah, and then when they got rich, the money went to their head, and they forgot what it means to share with other people. Well, in one particular town that Reb Hillel came to, this town didn't have a mikveh. A mikveh is very, very, very important to the infrastructure of a Yiddish kehillah. That's why a lot of shluchim, one of the first things they try to do when they come to a town, if there's no mikveh in the town, they try to build a mikveh in the town. It's very, very important for Jewish life. And so Reb Hillel goes over to the Gvir of the town, let's call him Hananya, and he says, Reb Hananya, please, why don't you give some money, we'll build a mikveh in this town. You're a very rich man, I'm sure you like a lot of kavod. Also, we'll put a big sign over the mikveh, this is Hananya's mikveh, and anybody that uses the mikveh will be in your schus.
Come on, but I spend my money on a mikveh. What do I need a mikveh for? I have a pool already in my house. I don't need a mikveh.
No, Reb Hananya, this is not a pool, this is a mikveh. It's for tahara, it's to make people halik.
Come on, I don't need no mikveh, no nothing. I'll go swimming in my backyard, and if I need a mikveh, I go to mikveh in my own backyard.
I understand, but this is for the benefit of the community. This is for the klal. You don't understand what kind of schus it is.
I'm going to spend money. I'd rather spend money on investing my business. I'm not going to spend money on building a mikveh. No way. I am a stingy person. Ich bin a karge Mensch. I like to hold my money very, very close to me. I like to polish my silver coins and my rubles because I love it so much.
I understand, Reb Hananya, but there's nothing you can do with the money after 120 years. The only reason why the Eibishter gave it to you is that you should have the tremendous chus that one receives for building a mikveh. Please.
No, I'm sorry. Go talk to somebody else. I know you're a very nice guy, Reb Hillel, and people appreciate you, and you're a very big chassid, and you're a really nice guy, and you like to help people, but I'm not like you, and I don't like to help people, and I am what some people might call stingy. I'm not stingy. I'm just smart. I make smart investments, and I don't think that I'm going to get a return on my investment by building a mikveh. I'm not going to make any money on it. So thank you very much for the opportunity and have a nice day.
And regardless of what Reb Hillel would try to do to tell the man, to beg and plead with him that he should, okay, you don't want to build a whole mikveh, but give money towards it, and then we'll collect the money from somewhere else. Not at all. The man wouldn't give a penny. After having one of these conversations, our friend, the Gvir, Reb Chananya, after a long day's work, put on his fancy silk pajamas that he had and cuddled up in his warm, cozy, fluffy bed with 18 pillows and a warm, cozy blanket to go to sleep. And while Chananya was in bed, he had a terrifying dream. He had a dream that Rachmana litzlan, he passed away. And the Chevra Kadisha, the Yidden that are in charge of burying someone, making sure someone has Kvudas Yisrael, which, by the way, is a very, very big schos and a huge mitzvah, the people that are involved in the Chevra Kadisha, it's called Chesed Shel Emes, because when somebody helps a person that passes away to make sure that they have the proper kavod, we should never know of these things, that's called the Chesed Shel Emes, because there's no way that this person could pay them back. That person is already in Olam HaEmes, he's already in Gan Eden, and that person cannot pay back the members of the Chevra Kadisha for treating him with Derech Eretz and doing everything according to halacha. So the people that are involved in the Chevra Kadisha, it's a very, very, very special schus that they have. But for some reason, the Chevra Kadisha of this town said that they needed money to help, make sure that the Beis HaChaim was in proper order, the fence was breaking, the grass needed to be cut, and some of the matzevis were crumbling, and they needed to charge a minimal fee to make sure that the service that they provide will be able to continue. And during the year, sometimes they would collect donations, they would have a little pushka in the shul and collect money to help support the organization. And Chananya, as you can well guess, did not give any money because tzedakah wasn't his thing. It was very difficult for him to give tzedakah. He was very stingy and he didn't give any money. So the Chevra Kadisha realized, you know what, now's our opportunity. The man passed away. His family is going to be Yiddish all his money. If they want us to bury Chananya, let them pay whatever he didn't pay all these years. It's only right. So the Chevra Kadisha said to the family, we're not going to bury Reb Chananya, we're not going to give him a kfura until he pays this extremely large amount of money, equal to what the man would have been expected to pay or donate over the last few years. Now, Kinderlach, if you think Chananya had a hard time giving tzedakah, if you think Chananya was karg, if you think he was stingy, if you think he was a miser, his family followed in his footsteps. They got a real good chinuch from him. And his children absolutely refused to pay, claiming that that amount of money was so high, it was tantamount to robbery. We're not going to be robbed blind just because it's stucca, just because our father never gave any money. You think you have the opportunity to rob us now? No way. This is our price, said the Chevra Kadisha. If you don't like it, then go take your father and bury him somewhere else. The Chevra Kadisha of this town is not going to bury him in our Beis HaKvaros, in our Beis HaChaim, with the other Yidden, unless you pay this money. And with that, the members of the Chevra Kadisha got up and left the house. Unwilling to pay, the children decided that they're going to think of a plan. They have their father's body, who's not alive anymore, laying over there in the house, and they refuse to pay the money to the Chevra Kadisha. Now remember, Kindalach, this didn't actually happen. This is Chananya is seeing this all in his dream, seeing that he passed away and what was going on. Some time passes, and the family came up with a plan. They said, you know what? We're going to trick the Chevra Kadisha into burying Reb Chananya in the Beis HaKvaros, and we're not going to pay the money. This is what they're going to do. They covered their father's face with a thick paste, like a goo, like they smeared something on his face. This is totally not derech eretz, not covered the mace at all. So this is what the Mishnah says, Aveda gereres Aveda. It starts with not wanting to give tzedakah and not treating their father with derech eretz, and it just piles up on top of that. and they didn't even realize it probably because chas v'sholem to give tzedakah. We're not going to pay the money. So they put like this thick paint or goo or paste on their father's face so he shouldn't be recognized. And then they took his body and they threw him over the fence of the Beis HaChaim. And this way, the Chevra Kaddish is going to come in the morning and they're going to see there's a nifter, there's someone that passed away and he's laying over there. They're not going to realize who it is because his face is covered in the schmutz. They're going to bury him and we're not going to pay the money. Well, as you guessed it, in the morning, the Chevra Kaddish found the body of a dead Jew. And, thinking that it must have been some traveler without any family, they immediately began preparing the body for a Kfuras Yisrael. However, after cleaning the face, they realized that it was none other than this rich miser who had passed away, Hananya. Ha! Was war a chutzpah this? What kind of disgrace? What kind of chutzpah does his family think they're going to pull on us over here? They were so upset. They were so angry that the family had tried to deceive them that the members of the Chevra Kaddish immediately placed the body on a wagon and sent it back to the house of Hananya, the rich miser. What do they think? They're going to trick us? They think they're going to try to pull shtick and not pay the money? A deal is a deal. The man's got to pay the tzedakah that he owes, or we're not going to bury him. And stop playing these games. Now, the family of Reb Hananya were back at square one. They're exactly where they started. You know, it's a day or two after Hananya passed away. He still wasn't given a kfura. He still wasn't buried. It's not covered on mace. The Chevra Kaddish is not budging on their condition in order to allow Hananya to be buried as a yid. He's got to pay the money that he didn't give to tzedakah for many years. And the family is not willing to pay. And they tried, throwing him over the gate that the Chevra Kaddish should give him a kfura anyways, and their plan didn't work. So what are they going to do? And they begin discussing their options once again. Because paying the money was totally out of the question. Our father gave us a chinuch that we don't give money to anybody else. We don't give money to tzedakah. We don't pay for anybody. We take care of ourselves. But as the hours passed by, Kendalach, the smell of the dead body grew stronger and stronger in the house. Because when a body is not alive, Rahman al-Islam, it begins to give off a very, very bad smell. Until it got so bad, it was so smelly, that it became unbearable. And now we'll take a break from the story to share with you a very important message. How many of you, when the doorbell rings, and there's a box that's delivered to your door, you run outside to open the box? And what could be in it? Something from Amazon, maybe some other thing that you ordered. They're all very nice and exciting things. But Shluchim, there is one box that is more exciting than anything you can order from Amazon or any other online place. You know what's in that box? It's a farbrengen in a box. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, a farbrengen in a box? I thought a farbrengen happens by a table. You're right. A farbrengen does happen by a table. But there are certain things that we need for a farbrengen. What comes in this box? You get an awesome game that's related to this Yom Pagra. So whatever the Yom Tov is, if it's Yutas Kislev or Hey Tevis or Yud Shvat, there's a game that comes in the box associated with that Yom Pagra. In the box, there's special prizes, special raffle tickets. And you know what's the coolest thing of all? Because this farbrengen in a box is geared for shluchim, you, Tayir Shluchim, you get to be the mashpia to run and conduct the farbrengen. In the box, you'll also find a special invitation to invite your parents to come join you as you farbrengen on this special Yom Tov. This is an awesome opportunity. Get in on the ground floor. Right now, there's a special sale going on at MyShliach.com. Go online to MyShliach.com/box and sign up for the Farbrengen in a Box program. The family of Reb Hananya realized that there was no way that the Chevra Kaddish was going to change their mind. And that was definitely not an option for them to pay the money. So they decided, Rahman al-Islam, to bury their father in a Goyish cemetery. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? The guy didn't want to give tzedakah in his lifetime. And that resulted in his kindalach not wanting to give tzedakah when he passed away, which resulted in him not being buried right away, like the way Shulchan Aruch tells us. And they didn't treat the niftar, the mace, with derech eretz. And now, just because they don't want to do the mitzvah of tzedakah, they're willing to have their father buried in a goyish cemetery, in a goyish beis hakvaris, then pay the money to tzedakah that the Chassidishe has requested. This is crazy. And this is the dream that Hananya has. But it's not over yet. In his dream, Hananya sees that his children approach the local galach and they request from the galach permission to bury the body in the Goyish cemetery. And the galach says, well, I absolutely agree to bury a Jew in my cemetery here next to the cloister with all the goyim, and only Gitchkalach on the matzeves. But I got 2 conditions. Yes, sure, what's the conditions? Well, first of all, you need to pay me and my cloister and my church 3,000 rubles so that we could continue buying more Gitchkalach and making up all the babamaises against the Yidden and Alilas Dam and blood libels and all the goyish silly things that we do. For a fee of 3,000 rubles, we'll be happy to bury a Yid in our cemetery. And the family talks it over and they say, well, 3,000 rubles is much less than what the Chassidishe is asking for to give to tzedakah. So you know what? Let's pay the 3,000 rubles to the guy. And who cares if the Yidden don't get any money for tzedakah? Okay, Galach, we agree to condition number 1. Oh, okay. Well, here's condition number 2. Condition number 2 is as follows. After the burial is done, and you set up your tombstone, or as you Jews like to call it, a matzeva, there needs to be an addition to the matzeva. You have to put a tselem on it. A what? A tselem. A tselem is one of the avodah zaras that we have over here. After all, it's a goyish cemetery, and if we don't put one there, I might be accused of burying a Jew. That's not allowed. But because I love money so much, and I'm so willing to do it for the 3,000 rubles, which will go to the cloister, to the church. Actually, I'm going to pocket the money for myself, but we're not going to tell anybody that. I need to have a sign to show that it's not a Jewish burial. And therefore, you have to put this avodah zara, you have to put this tselem on top of the matzeva, on top of your father's burial place. And the family talks it over, and they say, should we do it? Should we not? Let's think about it. 3,000 rubles we can give. That tselem, and they're talking about it, and they're thinking about it. And at that point, Reb Hananya, who's dreaming this whole story in his sleep, begins to scream in his sleep. He says, I agree to everything. I agree to everything. But not at Salem. Please, I'll give you the money. I'll do everything. But you cannot put a Salem on me. Chas v'shalom. I don't want a gitchka. I don't want avodah zara by my kaver. No way. He's screaming in his sleep. Because remember, he's dreaming this whole story, and he's watching how his children are about to bury him with a tselem in a beis hakvaris of goyim. And he's screaming, not at Salem, please! Hearing his screams, his children come running into his room, and they try to calm him down from his terrifying nightmare. Please, take me to Reb Hillel. Take me to Reb Hillel Paritcher right away. And so the wealthy man, Reb Hananya, now fully awake, was taken to the house where Reb Hillel Paritcher was staying. Standing before Reb Hillel with so much charata, with so much remorse and shame, he was now a changed man. And he said, Reb Hillel, I'm ready to pay the full amount that the Rav feels I should pay towards the building of the mikveh. And he instructed his secretary or his treasurer or whoever was in charge of his money to go to the bank or to go to his vault or safe, wherever he kept the money, and right away, that very day, pay the full amount it cost to build a mikveh in that town. And from that day on, Kindalach, he was a completely transformed person. He became a big Baal Tzedakah, to anybody that asked him for help. Sometimes a person thinks that I'm here while I am here now in this world, and so I'm here to have a good time. The person thinks to himself that all the money is for himself to live now. It doesn't realize that everything that Eibishter gave you is that you should be a shliach to help other people as well, both begashmius and beruchnius. There's even an interesting story of a person that was very, very wealthy. And before he passed away, he wrote 2 letters to this Kindalach. And he said, Kindalach, I want 1 letter you should open up right away, right after I pass away. And the other letter you should open up by the Shloshim 30 days later. And so when the man was very old, and after living a long life, he passed away, his children opened the first letter, and it says, Dear Kindalach, in the top drawer of my closet, I have a beautiful pair of socks that I love so much. Please, bring it to the Chevre Chassidishe and tell them that before the Levaya, they should put the socks on my feet, and I want to be buried with them. And so, they took the letter and the socks to the Chevre Chassidishe, and they asked them to please bury their father in these socks. The Chevre Chassidishe said, absolutely not, we can't. Halacha clearly says how a person is supposed to be when they pass away. And having socks is not one of them. Everybody has to be dressed exactly the same way in what's called tachrichim. And the Chevre Chassidishe said it's not going to happen. The family cried and begged and pleaded, Gor nisht. Okay, it is what it is. They had Levaya, they had the Shiva, and then it was time for the Shloshim. By the Shloshim, they opened up the second letter. And in the second letter, their father writes like this, Taire Kindalach. By now, you probably already had the Levaya, and you didn't bury me with the socks. And that's okay, because I knew that the Chevre Chassidishe weren't going to allow it. So why did I tell you to do it? Because I want you, Kindalach, to understand. I'm such a wealthy man. I have so much money and so many houses and so many businesses. So much in this world. And then when I passed away, I couldn't take anything with me. I couldn't take my toys and my house and my car and my wagons and my fields. I couldn't even take a single pair of socks. Even a pair of socks I couldn't take in the Yarden with me. So Kindalach, everything you have in this world, the only thing you really have to take with you in Eilam HaEmes is the mitzvahs that you do, is the Torah that you learn. Now, obviously, as Chassidic Chabad, we focus not about what's going to be after 120. We focus the here and now. Our Aveda is right now in this world. We should be happy and healthy and gesund and do our shlichus. But it's important to remember that everything that we have is in order to facilitate and help bring about the shlichus and whatever the Eibishter wants in its best possible manner. And like in this story, this person, Hananya, had to go through an awakening in order to see what Reb Hillel Paritcher was trying to explain to him, the big schus and the achrayus that he had to help build a mikveh in his town.